In every murder investigation, one question guides everything. Who had the motive, the means, and the opportunity? It's the question detectives ask when the trail runs cold. It's what turns random evidence into a case and a suspect into a killer. In today's story, we're breaking down a case that seemed picture perfect on the outside. But when the truth came out, it was fueled by obsession, jealousy, and premeditated violence. This is not just a story about murder. It's about control, about rage, about what happens when fame and ego collide and someone doesn't walk away. Let's investigate. She was young, vibrant, and in love, living the dream life on the road with her fiancé, documenting it all on social media. But just weeks after her smiling face appeared on Instagram, Gabby Petito was gone. What began as a romantic cross-country van trip turned into a nationwide manhunt, a media frenzy, and a devastating tragedy that exposed the dark truth behind one of America's most viral couples. Behind the filters and travel vlogs was a story of emotional control, domestic abuse, and chilling forensic evidence, leading investigators to ask the one question that matters most in every murder case. Who had the motive, the means, and the opportunity? This is the true story of Gabby Petito and how the world watched a crime unfold, one post at a time. Born March 19, 1999, to parents Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, Gabby grew up in Blue Point, Long Island, in a close-knit family that adored her. She was described by friends and relatives as fun-loving, creative, deeply empathetic, and a little bit of a dreamer. She loved art, yoga, the beach, and the idea of something bigger than the ordinary life. It's no surprise that when she met Brian Laundrie in high school, she was drawn to his own alternative spirit. He was quiet, artistic, and seemed just as eager to escape the ordinary. But not all soulmates are safe. Gabby and Brian's relationship wasn't always as dreamy as it looked online. By the time they got engaged in July 2020, those close to Gabby noticed troubling signs. Friends reported that Brian was controlling, particularly when it came to Gabby's independence, her social media, even her clothing. He often isolated her from others. She became quieter, more anxious. One friend later said, she would defend him even when she was clearly hurting. Despite these red flags, the couple decided to pursue a shared dream, to convert a white Ford Transit van into a mobile home and travel the country. They would live cheaply, document their travels on YouTube and Instagram, and maybe, just maybe, turn their adventures into a lifestyle brand. They called it their van life journey, but the dream would end in a nightmare. In July 2021, the couple left New York in their van and began their journey west. On social media, everything looked perfect, but police body cam footage, later released, would show us the truth. On August 12th in Moab, Utah, a concerned citizen called 911 to report what looked like a domestic violence incident. The caller said he saw a man slapping a woman. That man was Brian. The woman, Gabby. When police pulled them over, the now famous body cam video showed Gabby crying uncontrollably. Brian appeared calm, even smug. Gabby apologized for being mean, took the blame, and minimized the situation. She told officers she had anxiety. She blamed herself, a common response from victims of emotional abuse. Instead of separating them properly or identifying signs of coercive control, officers let them go. Gabby slept in the van. Brian got a motel for the night, and the trip continued. But after that moment, something changed. Gabby's social media posts became sparse and strange. Her once detailed captions were replaced by vague, emotionless updates. Some experts now believe Brian may have been controlling or even writing them. Then on August 27th, all posts stopped. Witnesses in Jackson, Wyoming, say they saw Gabby and Brian at a restaurant that day. Gabby appeared upset, crying in public. Brian was reportedly aggressive with the staff. That was likely the last time anyone saw her alive. 3 days later, on September 1st, Brian Laundrie returned home to Northport, Florida, alone. He was driving their van. Gabby was not with him. He said nothing to police. He told no one where she was. Gabby's parents couldn't reach her. Texts from her phone continued for a few days, but they didn't sound like Gabby. By September 11th, Gabby's family reported her missing. But Brian refused to speak. He hired a lawyer, and just days later, he disappeared. On September 19th, search crews discovered Gabby's remains in the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming, not far from where travel vloggers had unknowingly recorded the couple's van parked alone weeks earlier. The autopsy confirmed what many feared. Gabby had been strangled to death, likely on or around August 27th, the same day of that restaurant altercation. The coroner's report noted the brutality of the attack. Strangulation is often considered a deeply personal, rage-filled crime and a hallmark of domestic violence homicides. The time it takes to strangle someone, several agonizing minutes, speaks to the level of intention. Gabby had no drugs or alcohol in her system. There were no defensive wounds suggesting a fight, likely meaning she trusted her killer until the very end. As the public pressure mounted, the FBI launched a manhunt for Brian Laundrie. Weeks later, on October 20th, his remains were found in the Carlton Reserve, a vast swamp in Florida. Next to his skeletal remains were a dry bag and a notebook. In it, he wrote a confession claiming responsibility for Gabby's death, saying she had been injured and he ended her suffering. Investigators and forensic psychologists dismissed this as manipulative rationalization. There was no evidence of any injury to Gabby before her death, only Brian's words and a notebook soaked in lies. Brian died by suicide, a gunshot wound to the head. With his death, the case was officially closed, but for millions, the wounds remain open. So why did Brian Laundrie murder Gabby Petito? To understand that, we have to stop looking at the crime scene and start looking at the pattern. Brian Laundrie exhibited clear traits of coercive control, a subtle psychological form of abuse that doesn't always leave bruises. He isolated Gabby, dictated how she behaved, and used guilt, blame, and emotional manipulation to dominate her. Witnesses from their trip described him as controlling, possessive, and prone to sudden outbursts. But the most telling moment came in Moab, Utah, when police responded to a domestic call. Gabby was crying, apologizing, blaming herself. Brian, on the other hand, was calm, dismissive, and charismatic. He knew how to shift the narrative. Abusers often do. Forensic psychologists would later point to narcissistic traits in Brian, a fragile ego, fear of abandonment, and a deep need for control. Gabby, as she grew more independent and popular on social media, may have triggered his greatest fear, losing control of the person he believed he owned. So when the cracks in their relationship deepened, when Gabby fought back emotionally or physically, that control snapped. And that's often the turning point in domestic violence homicides. It's not about passion, it's about power. And when power is threatened, the abuser escalates. Strangulation in particular is deeply personal. It's not a quick or distant act. It's prolonged, it's intimate, and it's often a final attempt to assert dominance. In Gabby's case, it was fatal. What followed was textbook behavior for a guilty mind. Brian returned home alone, said nothing to authorities, and later fled into the wilderness. When cornered, he chose death over accountability. In his notebook, found near his remains, he confessed to the killing, but framed it as a mercy. That's not remorse. That's manipulation from beyond the grave. A final attempt to control the narrative. But no amount of words could cover the truth. The forensic and psychological evidence spoke louder. Brian Laundrie didn't snap, he silenced. Gabby's case highlighted the hidden side of picture-perfect relationships and the failure to see the signs of abuse when they're right in front of us. She became a symbol, not just of the dangers of intimate partner violence, but of the need for better police training, better public awareness, and better tools for victims trying to leave unsafe relationships. Her family launched the Gabby Petito Foundation, which supports missing persons, cases, and domestic violence victims. They have also advocated for changes to how law enforcement handles domestic calls. Gabby Petito should be remembered not as a victim, but as a vibrant, brave young woman who trusted the wrong person and whose life became a rallying cry for so many others. He wasn't a stranger in the night. He wasn't a masked figure lurking in the shadows. He was her fiancé, her travel partner, her best friend, until he became her killer. If you or someone you know is in an unsafe situation, please know you are not alone. There is help. There is hope. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Because telling the truth and honoring victims like Gabby is how we keep their stories alive. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay safe.